Okay. This morning we're with David Pearce of Papa's Pumpkin Patch and Papa's Polar Patch. And David, I'd like to start out asking you, how did you start the business and what made you start the business?
Glenn, I would tell the answer that I use for that question is it has been one happy accident after another. It really wasn't intentional at first, and then it became quite intentional, and now I would say it's quite strategic. But it began. I used to raise on the very property that we are now, on the farm that we're here. I used to do tomatoes and cucumbers in an intensified agricultural setting under plastic, and still having about 20 acres of farmland. And so I would also do the vegetables and the outdoor farmers market scene in the summertime. My primary market was the supermarkets and the stores, but my secondary market for outdoor crops was farmers markets and gardens. And then I had a gentleman come and ask me whether I would specifically raise pumpkins for him. I further learned through some questioning that what he wanted them for was to give them away during a parade at what we had then in Bismarck was called our Oktoberfest. And the very year that he asked me to start raising pumpkins for him for this promotional thing for his moving van company, the city fathers in Bismarck decided to change Oktoberfest to Folkfest, and they moved it from October into September, which in an agricultural environment takes 30 days out of the growing season, and made the difference between green pumpkins and orange pumpkins. And he didn't want green pumpkins, and so that's where it really did become my pumpkin patch instead of Chuck's patch. And so we had to get creative with, I was still in the tomato and the cucumber business, so the pumpkins were sort of done as a lark, which is why I say happy accident. We invited some first grade teachers to come out and help allow the kids and help me pick the pumpkins when they came orange in October. It was such a joy and such a delight. We had so much fun with the kids in the classes. That year was 1983, which was the beginning of Papa's Pumpkin Patch. And by 1985, we had decided that it was a bigger thing than just this little secondary thing to the greenhouse, the tomatoes. And so that's when we sort of shifted and made the switch to a bona fide patch. And back then, it was all about selling pumpkins. It was all about the color of orange and the pumpkins, and then some fun little activities for kids. This will be our 30th season as we come into 2012. Over those 30 years, it's developed, and it's not just pumpkins. It's become the whole full-fledged pumpkin patch with lots of activities and hay rides and pony rides and activities and bale castles and mazes, and it's become agri-tourism in the sense that we now know agri-tourism.
And that's what we're here to talk about. I'm just going to do a sound check now, make sure we're okay here. Okay, David, thank you very much for that good introduction and getting us to talk about the topic here, which is agritourism businesses. Now, obviously, you talked about 83 and then 85. You're going to start really growing this. How do you market Papa's Pumpkin Patch and Papa's Polar Patch?
So it started, Glenn. I mean, in the traditional ways. I mean, when you think back to 83 and 85, the traditional ways then were newspaper, television. We always knew that we were a very visual event, that the color of orange and the green in the grass and the trees of the Missouri River Valley bottom were very pleasant and pleasing to the eyes. And so we concentrated more on video and or pictures than anything else. And we did it, and we still to this day do as much as we can with setting up photo opportunities, because another one of the major ways this place markets itself is mouth to mouth, person to person. One person sharing photos and pictures with another. But we don't have to very much fast forward that, but as you think about video and then what became available to us on the internet, the posting with YouTube, the posting with Facebook, the postings with, I mean, even from being able to submit and share pictures over internet and email, very quickly we realized the electronic market, which was free, as opposed to buying very expensive video time. And if you think about television time, we were very fortunate with news stories, and because of the children, because of the kids, because of activities, we still to this day, the news media are wonderful with us for news stories. But an interesting element that comes in, because this is a fall event, every 2 years at least, we have to compete with all the political ads, because they're all coming due for the elections in November, see? And so buying time even became a real marketing and a media event. Well, allow the advent of Facebook and YouTube and the new social media that's available, which is far more reaching, far faster, and any video that you use within that media, back to where it really counts is when one person, one mom tells another mom, one family shares with another family the experience and the events that they had. That's just a phenomenal media, which really now rules what it is, the way we market the patch.
So it sounds like when we talk about social media, you use two primary ones, Facebook and YouTube?
Facebook, and I would say the primary media is Facebook.
Okay.
We have a website. We manage a website, and as a matter of fact, my sister and my sister Tracy is even a better guru, and that just goes with age and generational knowledge and wisdom about electronic media. We manage a website, which we try to keep up to date, and we post pictures, but that's not near as interactive as the Facebook. We know that more photos and activities get posted to YouTube. And those get referenced or cited and linked on the other two sites. But then just basic internet and email is still a major form of communication for us.
So did you start out with a website?
Started with just internet, then introduced and built the website, then built the Facebook page. We had, for a short while when we had the fire 3 years ago, we had another group that did WordPress, did a Patching the Patch site for us while we were maintaining a professional site off to the side that we'd had a web developer help us do, and now we're shifting back to the more interactive WordPress, and both of us, my sister and I, more people are spending more time with Facebook. I mean, we're just shy of 5,000 fans in 3 years.
Okay. Now you talked a lot about moms telling moms. Do you have moms telling moms via their pictures, via their own videos?
Yes.
And do you monitor that? I guess first question, are moms and dads doing that?
Families are doing that, kids are doing that, kids with kids. I mean, and now you see the cameras come out here in the hands of children, and they're not texting, but they're Facebooking their buddies, and that's happening on the site. As a matter of fact, last year when we were in Mandan, people were kids were sending other friends messages about come to the patch, it's especially fun, the zip line is at dynamite, here's a pic, la la la, that sort of thing happening. Yes, I think there's an awful lot of pictures that go back and forth, and I can't even pretend to know all. I mean, whether it's Picasso or whether it's a Facebook or it's a YouTube link or some other media that share, they know much more than I on how to share it and send them to their pictures and the fun shots that they're taking, both video and probably more still shots, but still video is also becoming popular.
Gonna sort of jump here a little bit in that sense. So, okay, so there's a lot of stuff going out about you. Do you and your sister try to keep up with what's being said about Papa's Pumpkin Patch and Papa's Polar Patch?
I would tell you we both monitor Facebook daily 3 or 4 times, and we both take turns posting to Facebook, asking questions. As a matter of fact, when you arrived this morning, my mother and I were talking about putting something out on Facebook about the whole idea of season passes, family passes, and we have gone to using Facebook as a terrific marketing tool simply because, case in point, my sister posted just the other day, she was posting, what the heck question did she ask? She wanted to know, we were discussing the gift store at the pumpkin patch and saying what other ideas could come up at the gift store, and instantly 5 people, I mean within 20 minutes or so, 5 different people posted 5 different ideas. Not that we'd never thought of them before, but they certainly confirmed thinkings that we were having, and there were 2 new ideas which we'll follow up on. I was saying with my mother this morning, okay, we're going to do the same thing with membership and family passage. What are the governing values to families who come here? Do they want, what is it in terms of, is it number of kids, is it age of the family, is it mom can come with the kids during the week and bring a friend or 2 of the children, can the family come and bring grandma and grandpa, what kind of a package needs to be parceled so that we create the highest value and best experience for our guests. That's ultimately how we will evaluate that, but who better to ask than your customers firsthand? If I just dream about it, ask them.
So when people come on site, it sounds like there's a lot of interactivity going on. Do you post on something you give them that day when they come in, that this is our website, this is our Facebook page, so you can encourage that subtly?
Not as much as we should, not as much as we will this year. This year we actually have a couple extra computer stands that will be set out, and people are going to be able to post there. They're going to be able to look at the website will be available and active on and during the patch, which we've talked about in the past. We've allowed people to sort of sign electronic guest book before, but we're going to ramp that up this year.
Do you capture all their names and stuff? And then you mentioned email. Do you capture their names and their email addresses in any way then?
We do now through the internet.
Okay.
They can sign up and sign on for regular updates. You know what special dates, special events that they're doing is now, and in most cases we have first names. We may not have first and last names. In many cases we have first names, telephone numbers. In all cases we have a named reference and an email address so that we can communicate with. I think that list is 300 or 400.
Do you mine that in any way, in the sense that it sounds like you don't have a lot of information, but okay, we're doing something particular for preschool children. So do you have the capacity to dig into it that deep?
No, we've not become that sophisticated yet.
Okay. How'd you get started using all these? I mean, obviously the traditional tools, we knew they were all there, but how did you decide to get into Facebook and YouTube videos and a website? Who made that decision? Or
the family. The family's made sort of the family are 6 of us. So it's my mother and I, my wife, my sister and her husband, and their nephew, my nephew, their son. He's 15, so he's obviously been brought up in the electronic age and is very computer electronic savvy. I have been, I would tell you, computer savvy. I've been into technology for a long time and been on the internet since shortly after it hit. I mean, I still have my old AOL address, so that gives you some sense for how long I've been active on internet. The first thing was a website, to develop a website so that we had some worldwide posting. And I do some international travel, so that was very fun from the standpoint that when I would go over internationally, I could show people pictures. They had internet access. I could pull up the web page and go to our site that way. It's been within the last 4 years that we've developed first was the WordPress page, and then from that was a stream over to Facebook. Facebook has become the biggest thing for us in the last 3 years, 2 to 3 years, and then YouTube within the last 2 years. And we're not really, all we see is a number of postings to YouTube.
Okay.
In that sense.
So WordPress is a blogging site.
That's right.
So you do blogs, or the whole family does blogs, or has that tapered off, increased, or?
The blog. Well, we're using the blog still as a page, as a post, and as an active site where we're interacting with our customers and our guests. The blogging has, you used the words, has fallen off. We've not seen the blogging. The blogging first came in, and then Facebook arrived, and the blogging sort of, that wave went out, and Facebook is much more active than is the blogging right now. Whether there'll be a change in that as we reintroduce a new WordPress page this fall, and I'm not sure whether we're going to abandon the old Papa's Pumpkin Patch site, Papa's Polar Patch site. I suspect we won't completely abandon it. We'll hang on to it and continue that domain and continue. It's just at this point in the game, you can see, or anybody who understands anything about the social media is trying to maintain the web page, and then the blog site, and then a Facebook page. And the problem is sequentially making sure that all the information on all those 3 places are consistent. So trying to manage is the same silliness as trying to manage multiple calendars. I mean, you really need to bring it to one site so that you can stay current and consistent. And so we see that chaos moment coming down the pipeline, and are thinking about it. Haven't quite figured out how to avoid it yet, but it's on the radar screen.
So is any one of the family members the dedicated electronic? It sounds like mentioned both you and your sister watch. Is anyone the dedicated electronic, this is your task?
No. Tracy and I share that. Tracy, if we were to have the conversation at the table today and vote, I would vote for her. And she would take it. Marketing is clearly really is a very strong point for Tracy. I think we're both very good about marketing, but she's excellent.
Okay. Now, you mentioned blogging, and obviously in my world of thinking, you can blog via Facebook, I mean, in many ways with what you can do. And today I have to thank you for the time to come out here and do it, and because one of the issues was it's spring, it's planting time. We knew this was a terrible time, but the weather turned out to be not real friendly to planting today.
That's right.
But do you capture pictures throughout the season of, okay, we're out here planting? Do you use it in that form and fashion to sort of build it?
Actually, a couple of weeks ago, we posted people gathering together your seed materials. Make sure you'd ordered your seed back earlier in the year. We posted pictures of little peat pots and little ways. I've got a class of kids coming this Friday that are actually going to be planting some seeds in the little expandable peat pots, and we'll be posting some pictures of that, sort of talking about the season. Tracy just said this week, and she said, okay, if you're planting this week, you make sure you let me know, or make sure we get out. We need to get out in the field with the camera. We need people to understand what goes on. So exactly this year we're going to be doing that as the whole season goes, to sort of, it keeps the site active. I mean, it keeps the site live and viable. In addition to, for lots of people who are sort of interested in what are the rudiments, what are the basics here, it's another way of teaching and telling the story.
Well, and that's one thing that we will talk about, and that's why we're doing these videos, is your storytelling, that you have to keep it active. You can't just wait till the pumpkins are orange and
Right.
do 6 weeks and be done with it or anything.
No.
So
Right.
now I'm going to back up here a little bit. You have a group of children coming out this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
When does your season sort of start, and when does it end?
It used to start in August, September, and be done by the end of October. It now starts and ends the same time, and we can start it in January and end it in January. It goes because in January the seed catalogs come out, and we begin to think about what we're going to plant and seed. We begin to plot the fields and think about where they're going to be, and whether we're going to need irrigation, and whether we need extra mulch this year. Or so the planning actually actively begins in January and February. The farming season, because we're now up to about 25 acres of pumpkins and squash and gourds, and if you add now then the corn, we're getting upwards of 30-40 acres that we plan to plant and manage and maintain. So that becomes, you're working the soils, and we're changing fields because we deal with the same disease problems, we deal with the same agronomic problems that you have to in any other farming operation. We're just doing it more intensively. And so the farming starts in March, April, May, just as soon as the thaws come around and ground temperatures change, and we start soil sample so we know what we're doing with fertility. Then the growing season, and we manage insects, and we have to manage irrigation, and we have to manage weeds. And that just transfers or moves us toward the harvest and the picking, and then the decorating. And behind the scenes of all that, we're building either new facades, or we're building new activities, or fixing and repairing pieces and parts, that needed some maintenance from last year's season. So the season now does go 12 months out of the year. It's not just the hobby that it started out where we could do it in 3 months.
And when do you get, okay, you got a 12-month season, when do you get, because I didn't realize that you had maybe youth groups coming out in the spring. When do the Agri-Tourists show up out here? Do they come out for planting, or
Some will come, Glenn. Some will come to help plant this year. Some are going to come. We've even talked. We've had a couple different calls of people just wanting to come out and camp and spend a week here. We have easy access to the river, so they can play in the water. I mean, when the marina is open and the river's reasonable. We've had a couple of people that want to come and camp, and they want to help pull the weeds and just play in the pumpkin patch and sort of help us grow and see what it takes to. We do drip irrigation, so it's a very simple drip irrigation, so it's something that a person could use in their gardens. They could use on small plots, and even in community garden settings. The system could be extrapolated there. So there are lots of opportunities, learning opportunities, that we never thought about them that way before. But as more and more of our rural population moves to an urban setting and lose, a couple of years to the farm, they're still very interested in that basic, that touch with the earth, that agricultural base, and so we're hearing of more interest in that, and how to gear up for that, how to think about that. And for us, it's not about, I don't think so much that we're thinking about that as a business and a profitable thing, as a way of cultivating the spirit of the pumpkin patch and a way of cultivating the guest relationship that we spoke about during the Agri-Tourism conference.
Okay, so that's not really part of the business side, that's more of your education, continuing the agrarian style.
I would tell you that would be the answer today, but 3 or 5 years from today, it's going to come back up on the radar screen, and as I watch other operations begin to take advantage. Take advantage is the wrong word, but as they begin to see that as a part of the business operation, I think we very well may change and have a look at it that way. So that's why I say this year it's on the radar screen from the standpoint that we've had family reunions here before, and they've wanted to be involved. Now it's extended beyond family reunions. People have driven by and seen trailers and wondered whether they could camp for a week. You know, so or can they camp up at the marina, which they could and can do, and come down here and play in the pumpkin patch. I mean, will the bales be set up? Will the swings be set up? Will the zip lines be available? You know, we've just never had those questions before, and all of a sudden, where did that come from?
Going to ask an aside question, because you obviously have liability for the pumpkin patch and stuff, but was it based on a set time of year that now as you're extending it and people want to come play, have you had to re-look at this?
Yeah, exactly. It used to, I forget exactly the dates, essentially they were from the 10th of September to the 30th of October, and then they also signed on after Christmas for the polar patch in the winter season, but they were very specified, 2 very specified seasons. And here now we're talking about, when does the season start? Is it these 3 days? Is it event by event? Those questions are now hitting the table, yes.
Okay. So, you and your sister, your nephew to some degree, have all started and it sounds like you also are the ones who do all the upkeep on it too. Your online presence, I guess.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. I do 100%. Tracy no longer has the software on her computer to access the website, so she's no longer dealing with Dreamweaver. I think she had Dreamweaver, and I started with Front Page and then switched to Expression Web, and so she just no longer has that software on her computer, so she no longer can interact with the server. I do the web page. She does 90% of the Facebook page. I do 10%.
Okay. And how much, when you say 90%, 10%, she does how much time is spent doing your online presence? Do you have any?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It happens when I get up in the morning. I mean, I'm sitting with a cup of coffee and I'm checking email anyhow, and all of a sudden, or somebody will post something and I need to answer a question, or as I mentioned earlier, it'll probably take me, it won't be at 30 minutes that I'll go over and I'll sit down to the Facebook page and figure out this little survey, and then we'll just watch. So do I spend a half an hour a day? I might, if you added minute by minute, if I had to clock in and clock out. If I had to clock in and clock out, I might put in an hour a day monitoring and thinking about or querying, planning what I'm going to do. It doesn't chew up my day like it does for a lot of people. I don't spend my life on Facebook. And I would be quick to say that, I mean, even as you caused me to think about, the economics of the time that's involved, the payback, the return on investment for that time is very high. I mean, the relationship that we're able to develop with a customer and the number of customers that we can reach with relative ease with Facebook or the website far exceeds the time that's involved to keep it updated and keep it current for folks. It's a great investment of time.
What tips would you give a business owner who's thinking about going online and starting a presence? From your experiences, what tips would you share?
The old KISS principle, just keep it simple, silly. It doesn't need to be highly sophisticated. It doesn't need to be. You don't want. I don't think it should be. It can't all be cutesy and jokes. And there's a lot of trash out there. But I think it can. If it just kept simple and kept focused on the business, it's a very easy thing to do. I think the other tip is I think you need to monitor it. We have many times looked back and been ever so pleased that I don't even know where we would find in the threads if we've ever had anything. I don't want to encourage anything negative to be posted, but I don't think we've ever had to deal with anything negative. We've always been able to spin from the positive side, and even when somebody says, there was one. So somebody did post something about the bees. TripAdvisor, which is another great media to use. I mean, lots of people are checking in on TripAdvisor. Very easy thing to interact with. But somebody said something about, but the bees at Papa's are terrible. Well, you know what? They are terrible. They live well because there's flowers down here in the bottoms, and they're pollinating, and they're helping us out in the patch, but dad burn it, they will come around and nest, and when children wander around, in fact, you see we've even gone from open cans of soda and open glasses of lemonade, which are the sweets, that the juices, and that's the sugar water they're looking for in the fall of the year. Make sure it's a capped bottle of, it's unfortunately it's more plastic, but you put a cap on it, and the bees are much less of a problem. Now they're still going to be around, there's still some presence, and anybody who freaks. So we did have this problem with the bees, but actually we spun that into a rather positive event about how to learn and we teach all of the children how not to capture the bee under the hand when just to brush away. So even that, but that's really the only negative thread that I can remember that was out there. But it also takes a lot of monitoring. Okay. I think that's done purposefully.
So keep it simple, monitor what's going on.
I would echo the phrase that our experience was there was a time we became a little bit lazy, and it is so interactive that you literally follow. Once you start following, you follow the trends in the activity, and I get a bit hooked by wanting people to be involved and interactive with the patch. So the idea is not to let it go lame. Not to let it go dormant for months on time. So at a minimum, I would tell you that we are multiple times per week that we're on it, that we post, or that we encourage posts to it. I wouldn't let. I'd be disappointed if we ever went a month, 2 weeks anymore. I would say would be unacceptable. It now demands our attention more than that. So I would say it does need to be a bit of a discipline. I mean, just like you're going to check your cattle, just like you're going to check anything else, you need to be disciplined about it.
Okay. What's been your greatest success? It sounds like you're just positive in general about online opportunities and stuff.
That's true.
Is there one thing that stands out in your mind as a great success or something you did? I mean, certainly you're high on Facebook.
No, I don't think there's any one thing.
Or perform beyond expectations. Did you have these kind of expectations?
I had no expectations other than hearing so many other people say you've got to be involved. You can't be passing this up. It's free advertising, and you're a fool to miss it. And I would say we really would be foolish to miss it because it is so visual. I mean, when you see the pictures come up on the screen, and now. There are plenty of programs where you can downsize. You don't have to just take the picture from the camera and post it in huge megapixels. I mean, you can compress the video. You can compress the photo to where uploading and downloading on just about anybody's machine. And even now that we've gone to the mobile handhelds, you can be smart enough about that so that I can think in terms of upload-download time, just like the customer can. And maybe if they're, now that's a little more sophistication in terms of understanding the system and the platforms that folks are working on. But again, because it's all so visual, and I understand the value of visual to my business. This is not the car business where you can just keep having ads shotgunning at an audience and a pass-by audience. This is one where when they see a picture of a child, and they see the fun that goes on here and the activities, that's the magnetic pull that will bring them here and say, no, we want to be a part of that. We need to see that, or that really is bigger than life.
You talk some real technical terms about sizing and everything else. Who taught, how'd you learn to operate all these platforms?
On the fly. Yeah, just an inquisitive mind that keeps saying, I wonder how they got that done. How'd they do that? How'd they make that happen? And then asking people that I know asking my nephew, he's the one that knows. the young generation figures it out like that. Something goes wrong, and Ben Luke, come help me here, and it corrects it. And then, yeah.
Has anything not performed the way you wanted it to?
I think early on when we yes, as we changed technology, as we went from the telephone connections to a wired connection to wireless connections and wireless networks, all of that, the uploading, downloading times and loading, can become frustrating. And once you have to start waiting and dinging, or a computer, because it's of its age and processing ability, doesn't bring up stuff. Once you have to start clicking, and then we all maybe we don't all. I become impatient and I click, and if nothing happens instantaneously, I click again, and pretty soon you get, you get frustrated because your system's not working. Well, I know that many of the moms and dads and many folks that are my guests and customers out here have that same experience, and so I have to think in terms of how do I keep it quick for them? What can I do to make that not happen, that experience not happen? When you talk about worrying about compressed pictures and the technology of what we're using.
You mentioned return on investment, and you said you've had an excellent return on investment. How do you measure that? When you made that statement, what are you basing that on?
Yeah, it may be more anecdotal than numerical. It's the speed with which, if I put a post, if we post something to a Facebook page, or somebody else posts to our fan page, I watch how fast. I mean, literally over the course of a day, I will check in the morning. I might check again at noon, and whenever I walk in and get a drink of water or something, I'll just check it. And I'm amazed at how fast others have posted likes and or comments with that. I pay attention to the number of people that click on just like and don't make a comment, and the number of people that actually interact with the page, the people that are talking about, the number of folks that are talking about a post that hit in the information. And then I will hear, as people come to visit the patch, or if I have an opportunity to speak at a function, and people will come and talk to me about their experience. They remember when that was posted. Believe it or not, I had this morning, I had a friend that I was, a couple of years ago, I was in Nairobi, Kenya. I was teaching in Kenya, and he posted to me this morning via Facebook that he happened to notice that we'd had a sale. Are we already selling pumpkins? And it was indoor. Well, he had confused. We had a rummage sale out here at the barn, and he just hadn't, he'd seen these independent posts and didn't connect the dots quite right. And of course, his season in Kenya is much different than my season here. So it's just paying attention to all those little pieces and watching and wondering how other folks use this media.
You did have a sale just last weekend, a couple of weekends ago.
Yeah. 27th of April. So,
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
last weekend in April.
Okay. And I saw it on Facebook.
Yes, sir.
What made you decide to put that on? I mean, that doesn't seem to fit what you're developing out here.
Has very little to do with the pumpkin patch, other than it was at the pumpkin patch, and you can check beyond. So the pumpkin patch, part of this, Glenn, is that we've been out here for 30 years. And so when you have 50,000 people a year come here, this is an identified space and place in the Missouri River Bottoms, a mile and a half north of town. Other people will advertise property for sale located close to the pumpkin patch, house for sale located close to the pumpkin patch. We had neighbors that when we knew that we were going to have a sale, and we have a neighborhood group here that's organized in the community. And when we announced that we were going to have a sale, they said, well, can we join you so that we can make multiple sales in the neighborhood, so that would give a person more reason to come down to this area. And so that was really the reason that we used. At that point in time, we thought, okay, we're going to use Facebook with this. We understand it's not the pumpkin patch, but it's being held at the pumpkin patch. And there were a remarkable number of comments. I mean, even people saying, it's raining, are you still open? The answer is yes. So we're communicating. And as a matter of fact, we had a computer over there where we were interacting, and we were starting to post those items which we thought should maybe be on Bizman Online or should maybe go to eBay. We could pull them off. We were taking a picture and we were posting them while the sale was going on. Now that's an absolute new switch in terms of melding technology with our business.
Do you use Twitter at all?
Very little.
Okay.
Yeah, I just haven't done Twitter yet.
If you had to do this differently or over again, would you change anything?
When you say this, the pumpkin patch?
No, the
Marketing. The
online
online presence.
presence.
I don't know that I would change anything because I don't know that I would have known anything any faster, any sooner to do it. I mean, I still wouldn't. You'd have a hard time convincing me that I should pay somebody to do what it is I think we do better ourselves. Part of that is because we have discovered that it's generally Papa. It's this third-party person who talks. If you watch the Facebook page, it's Papa's been thinking about this, and one day I might be the Papa, but I don't necessarily consider myself the Papa today. Tracy's not the Papa. Our father, our Papa, left us many years ago. So Papa is sort of this wonderful Santa Claus kind of person, and so we market it. We use Papa that way. We've discovered that's very powerful. Knowing what we now know, we might have used that approach earlier. I'm still amazed that there's 5,000 people who are just under 5,000 people who are pretty active on that. Not active, friends. Have clicked in and chosen, and it has never really seemed to drop off. It continues to build. So I mean, we might lose a couple here and there, but then we'll gain 3, and we lose 1, we gain 2, and so it continues to grow. And the true growth is really when the patch opens, when it becomes live and people are posting, live videos and live activities of what are going on here. Then you see friendship.
Well, that's people as myself. Like I said, my kids probably experienced it through Claudia Thompson. But now my kids, one has just returned to Bismarck with her husband, and there might be grandkids. So I may like it and then sort of not be very active. But now, as if this occurs,
That's right.
presence will pop up again.
Yeah.
What changes have you made to your operation because of your online presence? Any?
I think a higher concern for safety. We've probably been more conscious of where and how we put photo opportunities. And that's just that we understand what backgrounds look like on a Facebook presence. And so just as I was asking you this morning, how are we going to... I was attentive to the background as opposed to just sitting down and say, let's do this. That's a change that's come about. The other major transition for us at the Patch has been the shift from we used to just sell pumpkins till now the sales, we still sell about 30,000 pumpkins and squash, which is a pretty fair-sized number. That's 250,000 pounds. If you think about it, that's 250,000 pounds. I mean, that's when I say a ton of pumpkins, I mean that's a ton of pumpkins. But in addition to the pumpkins, people come out here as much for the activities, as much for playing in the woods, as much for playing on the trees, as much for playing in the bales and the castles and the activities. And so where it used to be all about pumpkins, it's now pumpkins and these activities. And right close behind that, I mean, given the number of pictures that we get through Christmas cards, and now electronic Christmas cards that come with the pumpkin patch in the background, I mean, where we recognize the barn scene, we recognize the pumpkins in the yard scene, we recognize the scarecrow scene on these pictures. We realized that because of the Missouri River bottoms, which is what we were so concerned about losing the trees to the flood, because we would lose the background for photos, that I would tell you it's pumpkins and it's play and it's photos. It's the photo memories, the electronic journals and scrapbooks that people can put together very inexpensively and then share them with the family worldwide. And that's all because of the electronic media.
Do you keep all those pictures?
I bet I have 90% of them.
Okay.
There are very few I delete. My hard disk is full.
Do you ask permission to post some of those pictures?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we have we hire a professional photographer to come out for us and to shoot, to go around and get some of those permission slips, but to shoot photos that we know we're going to use in a marketing environment.
Okay.
That's happened the last 5 years.
Do you hire the same photographer? Or?
We have. We've been fortunate enough to have her.
Okay.
And her husband's a pilot, so they get to go up in the air.
Is that how you got the aerial?
That's how we get the aerials. Yeah. In fact, it's just so you know, it happens to be She used to work for the Tribune, and so she first came out here, Amy Taborski, first came out here as a Tribune reporter, taking pictures. Then she went on her own, and we hired her, just because she was so good about action. She used to film sports teams in Florida. She used to be the professional photographer for the Florida teams. And so she's just dynamite with action shots. So now we hire her to do that. Her husband, she came here, she married Larry Taborski, who's our aviation commissioner. And so, of course, he flies. So they have access to airplanes, and so that's how we pay the rent of the airplane. Larry loves to fly his wife. His wife likes to take pictures. We get aerial photos of the patch. And we would never get the better ones than they're able to take for us. That's how we get those you've seen.
Last question. What 2-3 tips would you like to share with other business owners as they're thinking about starting or expanding their online presence? Maybe you've already covered them.
Yeah, no, I would say look for the happy accidents. I mean, that has been a term for us out here. We have found more wonderful surprises. Now, maybe it's, when you go to mine for gold, you need to know what the gold looks like, and then you look for it. But we have learned that this idea of happy accidents, of something that maybe looked like it wasn't going to work out, but you look for the gold in it. You look for the fun, the happy side of the accident. And I would tell you that it's more for us. It has become much more than just a paradoxical phrase, happy accident. But you look for the happy accidents. And I would say that fits for all of life as well as it fits for pumpkin patches, whether it fits for a farm, whether it fits for marketing and advertising. The happy accidents happen. That might be one thing I would say. I think that it's not so much a tip, Glenn, but it's as you know with the folks that you work with, and we have a friend that comes out here, and her attitude is, well, how hard can it be? So Carol all of a sudden shows up, or we think of Carol saying, well, how hard can it be? And that's the way I would say it is with social media. I mean, it may seem daunting because of the electronics and because of the terminology and technology. Let Carol come into your life and say, how hard can it be? and get after it, because the value, you asked me about return on investment, the value is very high. If you're interested in a relationship with your customer, and I think today's business is all about relationships, and I would go back to what they were teaching years ago, but it's the idea of lifelong relationships. And it doesn't, I mean, you've already alluded to it with your daughter and now grandchildren. You see, it's exactly what this business is all about. It's lifelong relationships. We're into the third generation of folks, and it has become tradition for people. So now our goal is to keep the tradition new and alive and current. And Scott Wild, who is Wild Inspire, okay, you know Scott. He and I are both serve on the Burleigh County Extension Advisory Committee. And we were sitting down beside each other at the last commission meeting, and Scott was just wildly inspired by social media presence, and he was trying to communicate that to the committee. And the committee at the moment and the motion that was before the board was sort of stuck on traditional marketing and advertising, and that so many of the current people that were participating in this one program don't have computers, don't participate in social media. And Scott said, he turned to me and he said, I'm not trying to talk about today's customers. I'm trying to talk about the customers 5 years down the road. And if you want to be servicing and serving your customers in 5 years, this is where they get their information. And I thought, that was just happy accident that he and I happened to be sitting side by side that day, because I heard him loud and clear. Customers 5 years down the road are going to be getting almost all of their information from their handhelds. That's what they're not going to be reading paper newspapers anymore. They're going to be clicking it off their telephones or clicking it off their palm tops all the time. And if you want to be involved with them, that's where they're going to be looking for your hours of operation and your costs and your prices and what's happening now. And they're going to be just that interested to know what's happening today. And if you're active in those environments and comfortable in those environments, you're going to be a part of their daily news source. You're going to be in relationship with them. My guess is you'll have their business, bottom line.
I said last question, but now you brought up another one. Mobile. Is your website mobile ready?
No, it's not mobile ready enough. That's got to be one of the new updates. Okay. Is we've got to think of it in terms of the telephones and the handhelds, and it's not. I mean, you can bring it up, but everything's
Gotta
got
scroll
to be,
across it.
everything's got to be blown up, and it's not at all Android friendly, or what is the new?
I don't know what the term is,
Yeah.
but mobile friendly is what,
It's not
is
mobile
to
friendly
have
enough.
a different,
Interface.
actually a different, so it's smart enough to know, do I go to your mobile site, which is, basically more text oriented with
Right.
fewer pictures,
Right, because
from what I know about it, but
That's
I'm not the techie pro at this thing.
well,
and
and it
stuff.
still can be in a format that uploads and downloads, so you're
Right.
not doing multiple expands and contracts and paging, and you can get to that information that you need
Right.
much faster, or you get the note. I'm not even as text savvy as I need to be. I mean, my generation doesn't text so much as we get on the telephone and talk to one another. But exactly what Scott said to me, your customers 3 to 5 years down the road, this is the way they're going to get it. And so David says, well, I think that far ahead. He absolutely put it in a blinking form. He put it on my radar screen. It's not just over the edge or on the horizon anymore. It's there that we will deal with it. That was a fun discovery.
Well, David, I appreciate your time this morning. This has been a great interview. I love your passion. I'm big about passion in businesses, not only passion for the website, but passion just for Papa's Pumpkin Patch and Papa's Polar Patch. So
Thank you.
thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.